Tai sipped his cold tea, eyes glazing over as data streams scrolled past. Then something changed. A pattern emerged from the background noise, a repeating signal with clear artificial structure. He sat upright, fingers flying across his console. "This is new," he muttered, applying translation algorithms to the unknown transmission. June noticed the change in his colleague's posture and walked over. "Found something interesting." "Not sure yet. Something's broadcasting on an unusual frequency." June leaned closer, watching the signal analysis. "Natural phenomenon." "No," Ta said, his voice dropping. "Definitely artificial. And, wait, it's following Alliance emergency protocols, but with modifications I've never seen." The signal pulsed with increasing urgency as the translation program worked. Fragments began appearing on screen. "Under attack. Civilian casualties. Request immediate assistance." "It's a distress call," Ta said, feeling the chill run down his spine. "But not from any recognized Alliance member." June's eyes widened. "Should we alert command?" "Already done," Tai replied, not looking away from his screen. "Priority channel." Within minutes, the outpost commander joined them, his face grave as he watched the signal analysis. "Do we have a location?" he asked. Ta nodded. "Star system K2519. Unexplored but mapped. About 12 light days from here." "And the sender?" "They call themselves Viridians. No record in our database." Hours passed as the full message was decoded. The picture it painted was grim. The Viridians were a peaceful, plant-like species who had achieved space travel only recently. Their home system had been invaded by the Krell Dominion, an expansionist empire known for stripping planets of valuable resources with no regard for native life. The Viridian message included biological data and images. They were beautiful beings with translucent, frond-like limbs that captured light. Their bodies glowed with inner bioluminescence, and they communicated partly through color shifts. The message showed Krell forces burning forests of what appeared to be Viridian young, harvesting minerals from sacred sites, and setting up processing plants that poisoned the atmosphere. "They're being systematically destroyed," Ta said quietly, studying the footage. "The Krell aren't just taking resources, they're eliminating the population." 3 days later, the Alliance Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from 37 member species gathered in the Great Hall on Alliance Prime. The Viridian message played for all to see. Debate erupted immediately. "We cannot intervene in conflicts involving non-members," insisted the Raxan delegate, his metallic voice echoing. "It violates our foundational principles." "But if they've requested help, doesn't that create an exception?" asked the representative from Proxima Centauri. The Ellerin ambassador rose. "The Krell Dominion has twice our military strength. Confronting them could lead to full-scale war. So we watch another species die because we're afraid," challenged the Martian delegate. The debate circled for hours. The Alliance chair finally called for a vote. Those in favor of sending diplomatic representatives to negotiate with the Krell. A moderate number of hands rose. Those in favor of full military intervention. Fewer hands. Those in favor of non-intervention. Nearly half the chamber. "No clear majority," announced the chair. "We will reconvene tomorrow for further discussion." Admiral Hannah sat silently through the proceedings, her face betraying nothing. As Earth's military representative, she had observed Alliance politics long enough to recognize a pattern. They would talk until it was too late to matter. The next day, as debates resumed, Admiral Hannah entered wearing her full dress uniform, medals gleaming. She waited for a pause in the arguments before standing. The chamber fell silent. Humans were the newest Alliance members, and still something of a curiosity. Their homeworld was classified as a Deathworld, a planet with extreme conditions that produced hardy, adaptable life forms. When humans spoke about military matters, other species tended to listen. "Honored representatives," Hannah began, her voice carrying without need for amplification. "I've received the Viridian transmission and analyzed the Krell attack patterns. This is not a resource acquisition mission. It is extermination." The soft blue glow of screens lit up the quiet monitoring station on Alliance Outpost Theta. Officer Ta sat at his terminal, the 7th hour of his shift, dragging on like the previous 6. Nothing ever happened this far out on the edge of charted space. The outpost existed simply to maintain Alliance presence in this quiet sector. She activated a holographic display showing Krell bombardment sites. They're targeting population centers first, then resource-rich areas. This is genocide, plain and simple. Murmurs filled the chamber as representatives studied the evidence. While the Alliance debates, Hana continued, "A species dies. On Earth, we have a saying passed down through generations. With great power comes great responsibility. We have the power to help. Therefore, we must." "Admiral," the chair cautioned, "Earth cannot unilaterally." "Earth isn't." Hannah's eyes flashed. "But humanity is. The 7th Fleet has already been mobilized. We depart in 6 hours." Chaos erupted in the chamber. "This violates protocol," shouted the Raxan. "You risk war with the Krell," warned the Ellerin. Hana stood unmoved. "Perhaps, but we face something worse by doing nothing. The knowledge that we could have saved lives, and chose not to." She bowed slightly. "Earth respects the Alliance's decision to debate. We've made ours." As she turned to leave, the Proximan representative stood. "Proxima Centauri stands with Earth. Our ships will join yours." Then another delegate rose. Then another. The Deathworlders had made their choice, and surprisingly, they would not stand alone. The massive hangar of Earth's orbital shipyard buzzed with activity. Crew members rushed to their stations as supply drones moved in precise patterns, loading the final provisions into the waiting ships. The 7th Fleet, 23 warships of various classes, sat ready for departure. Captain J stood on the bridge of the HSS Thunderstorm, the fleet's flagship. His eyes scanned the holographic displays showing ship status. The Thunderstorm was a marvel of human engineering. 2 kilometers of reinforced hull plating, fusion drives, and enough firepower to level a small continent. "All systems green," reported the ship's eye. "Weapons at full capacity. Shields optimized. Medical bay stocked." Jay nodded, his expression serious. At 43, he had seen enough combat to know that preparation meant survival. "Begin final crew check," he ordered. Across the weapon control deck, Lieutenant Minna ran diagnostics on the main cannons. Her fingers danced across the controls with practiced ease. "Energy reserves at maximum," she reported to her team. "Targeting systems aligned to 99.8% accuracy." One of the younger officers whistled. "The Krell use mostly energy-based weapons, right? Their shields aren't designed for our kinetic impacts." "Exactly," Minna replied with a grim smile. "Deathworlders to the rescue." The Krell have no idea what's coming. The term Deathworlder had initially been an insult when humans first contacted the Alliance. Most spacefaring species evolved on gentle worlds with stable climates and few natural predators. Earth, by contrast, was a nightmare. Extreme temperature variations, high gravity, aggressive predators, and microorganisms that could kill through invisible infection. These conditions had shaped humans into something the galaxy found disturbing. They could survive radiation doses that would kill most species. They could function after losing significant blood. They could endure pain that would send other beings into shock. Their bones knitted after breaking. Their immune systems fought off invaders. They even deliberately ingested poisons: alcohol, caffeine, capsaicin, for pleasure. In the fleet's medical bay, Dr. Sun prepared his team. "Remember," he told the medics, "we may encounter Viridian casualties. Their biology is plant-based. No blood pressure to monitor, different respiration. Study the files." The young medics nodded, reviewing the limited biological data on the photosynthetic aliens. One spoke up, Do they even understand the concept of battlefield medicine? Sun shook his head. The Viridians have never fought a war. Their society evolved without significant predators or resource competition. They have art, science, philosophy, but no weapons. In the armory, Master Sergeant Du supervised the loading of combat suits. Each exoskeleton enhanced a soldier's natural strength and speed, with integrated weapons and medical systems. Check your oxygen reserves twice, he ordered the Marines. We don't know what we'll find on the surface. The Krell like to use atmospheric toxins. Won't affect us much, said a soldier, securing her helmet. Our filters can handle almost anything. Don't get cocky, Du warned. Overconfidence kills faster than any toxin. On the command deck, Admiral Hannah reviewed the final deployment plans with her officers. The fleet's central holodeble displayed the Viridian system in miniature, a yellow star orbited by 7 planets, the third being the Viridian homeworld. Current intelligence suggests 16 Krell vessels in system, she said, pointing to red markers. Their standard pattern is to establish orbital superiority, then land processing crews. The Viridians have no defenses, asked a tactical officer. None, Hannah confirmed. Their satellites are for communication and research only. Their space vessels are exploration craft with minimal shielding. She brought up the distress message again. The translator had improved, revealing more details of the Viridian plea. The images showed the beautiful crystalline cities of the plant-like aliens, structures that grew rather than being built. Many were now burning or collapsed, with Krell harvesting machines moving through the ruins. They have no concept of warfare as we know it, Hannah told her officers, her voice soft but intense. And they have no idea what humans can do. The conference room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humans had joined the Alliance only 30 years ago, and no human fleet had engaged in full combat beyond their home system. The Krell knew of humanity only as a curious new Alliance member from a harsh world. We are not just fighting to save the Viridians, Hannah continued. We are showing the galaxy what humanity stands for. Some Alliance members think we're dangerous because of our biology. Let's show them we're dangerous because of our principles. Throughout the fleet, final preparations were completed. Engineering teams secured loose equipment. Cooks prepared high-calorie meals for troops who would soon need every ounce of energy. Pilots ran last simulations of combat maneuvers. Captain J returned to his quarters briefly before departure. He touched the small picture of his family, his partner, and their child, then placed it carefully in his pocket. Many captains would face the coming battle with thoughts of glory or duty. Jay thought only of making the universe safer for his daughter. When he returned to the bridge, the crew stood at attention. All ships report ready, Captain, his executive officer announced. Jay took his command chair. Signal the fleet. Departure sequence in 5 minutes. Across the vast hangar, engines began to glow with building power. Docking clamps released. Navigation beacons activated. Admiral on deck, announced the bridge officer as Hannah entered. Status, Captain? She asked, taking position beside Jai. Ready on your order, Admiral. Hannah nodded, her eyes fixed on the main view screen showing the stars beyond the shipyard. Somewhere out there, the Viridians waited, not knowing if help would arrive in time. The 7th Fleet will jump together, she ordered. Set course for the Viridian system. The great ships moved in perfect formation, accelerating away from Earth. One by one, they reached jump velocity and vanished into hyperspace, leaving only fading energy signatures behind. The Reapers were on the hunt. The human fleet exited hyperspace in perfect formation. 23 warships materialized at the edge of the Viridian system, their engines glowing blue against the black void. On the bridge of the HSS Thunderstorm, the crew fell silent as the main view screen activated. Before them hung the beautiful world of swirling blue-green continents and crystalline white poles. But dark ships hovered in orbit, their weapons cutting angry red lines through the atmosphere. Plumes of black smoke rose from the surface where forests burned and cities fell. Tactical assessment, Admiral Hannah ordered, her voice steady. 18 Krell vessels detected, reported the sensor officer. 14 in bombardment positions. 4 appear to be resource carriers. They haven't noticed us yet. Captain J studied the Krell formation. Their shield grid has gaps. They weren't expecting company. Hannah nodded. Alert all ships. Fighters ready in launch bays. Marine dropships prepare for surface deployment. Throughout the fleet, crews moved with practiced efficiency. In launch bays, pilots climbed into their fighters. In troop compartments, Marines checked weapons and armor. Open a channel to the Krell command vessel, Hannah ordered. The communication officer worked his console. Channel open. Admiral. The view screen flickered, then displayed a reptilian face with yellow eyes and ridged scales. Commander Torvik of the Krell Dominion looked momentarily surprised before his expression shifted to one of disdain. Identify yourselves, he demanded, his translator giving his words a metallic quality. Admiral Hannah stepped forward. This is Admiral Hannah of the Earth Defense Force, representing the Galactic Alliance. You are conducting illegal operations against a sentient species. Cease all hostile actions immediately. Torvik's scales shifted color slightly, a sign of amusement in Krell body language. You are trespassing in Krell territory, he hissed. This system and its resources were claimed by the Dominion. Withdraw or be destroyed. This is a free world under Alliance protection, Hannah replied calmly. You have one chance to retreat. Torvik's jaw opened, revealing rows of needle-like teeth, a Krell laugh. Alliance protection. The Alliance has no jurisdiction here. And who are you? I don't recognize your species. We are humans, Hannah said simply. Humans, Torvik repeated, seeming to search his memory. Ah, the new specimens from that high-gravity world. How interesting. You've come a long way to die. Final warning, Hannah said. Withdraw your forces. Torvik's laugh was cut short as warning alarms sounded on his bridge. The first wave of human fighters had launched, streaking toward the Krell fleet at speeds their targeting systems struggled to track. What is this? Torvik snarled. No fighters can. The transmission cut as the first explosions bloomed against Krell shields. All ships, engage, ordered Admiral Hannah. Target their bombardment vessels first. Marine deployment begins now. The 7th Fleet moved with shocking speed. The Krell, accustomed to the methodical warfare of other Alliance species, found themselves overwhelmed by the human assault. Fighters darted between capital ships, their kinetic weapons bypassing energy shields designed to stop lasers and plasma. On the surface, the situation was dire. The Krell had deployed radiation bombs to clear Viridian population centers before harvesting resources. For the plant-like Viridians, the radiation disrupted their cellular structures, causing what humans would consider severe burns. The first 5 Marine dropships entered the atmosphere, their hulls glowing orange with entry heat. Each carried 60 human soldiers in full combat gear. As they approached landing zones, Krell ground forces fired anti-aircraft weapons. Evasive Pattern Delta ordered Major Gill in the lead dropship. Remember, our priority is civilian evacuation. Engage Krell forces only when necessary. The ships scattered, using cloud cover and terrain to avoid Krell targeting. 4 reached their destinations. The 5th took a direct hit, but its pilot managed a controlled crash landing, the reinforced hull protecting most of those inside. Sergeant Da led his squad from the first dropship after it landed in what had once been a Viridian garden square. The area was now clouded with radioactive dust and chemical agents the Krell had deployed to make the environment uninhabitable for Viridians. The human Marines stepped out into the toxic fog. Their armor provided protection, but many lifted their visors to better see their surroundings, seeming unbothered by the poisoned air. Life signs. Day asked his team's sensor specialist. Multiple readings in that structure, she replied, pointing to a crystal-like building that was partially collapsed. Weak but stable. Move out, ordered Da. Jin, take point. Q, watch our backs. The squad advanced through the ruins. Viridian architecture was unlike anything they had seen. Buildings that seemed grown rather than built, with translucent walls that would normally capture sunlight for the photosynthetic aliens. Now many structures lay shattered, their fragments glittering in the dust. Inside the damaged building, the Marines found a group of Viridians huddled together. The aliens were tall, slender beings with semi-transparent bodies and frond-like limbs that now hung limp and discolored. They recoiled at the sight of the armored humans. "We're from the Alliance," Dai said, his translator converting his words to the musical language of the Viridians. "We're here to help you." One Viridian stepped forward. Unlike the others, whose bodies displayed colors of fear and pain, this one showed patterns of cautious hope. The Marine systems identified him as an elder named File. "You came," Fuddle said, his fronds vibrating with emotion. "We had almost lost hope." "Medical team," Dai called. Two Marines moved forward with treatment kits designed for Viridian physiology. Fel watched in amazement as the humans removed their helmets to better work with delicate Viridian tissues. "How can you breathe our air?" he asked. "The Krell poisoned it. Even we struggle now." "We can't," replied Da with a shrug as he helped gather young Viridians. "But we can hold our breath for a long time. And we brought our own oxygen. Don't worry. We're here to help." The Viridian's color pattern shifted to something the translators identified as astonishment. "You expose yourselves to toxins to help us more efficiently." Da hadn't thought of it that way. To him, taking the helmet off to work better was just practical. "It's nothing. Our bodies can handle much worse than this." Above them, the battle for orbital control raged. Human ships moved in patterns the Krell had never encountered, accepting damage to gain tactical positions. For the first time, the Krell faced an enemy who didn't retreat when logic dictated they should, and they didn't know how to respond. The space battle had raged for 6 hours. The human fleet had managed to destroy 3 Krell ships and damage several others, but reinforcements had arrived from deeper in Krell territory. The massive world-breaker dreadnoughts, each one 3 times the size of the largest human vessel, emerged from hyperspace with weapons already firing. "New contacts," reported the sensor officer on the HSS Thunderstorm. Her voice remained steady despite the fear in her eyes. 4 World-Breaker-class dreadnoughts at coordinates 227 Mark 43. Captain J felt the ship shudder as another Krill energy beam struck their shields. Warning lights flashed across the damage control board. "Shield strength down to 18%, Captain. Decks 7 through 12 reporting hull breaches. Emergency bulkheads holding." Jay studied the tactical display. The arrival of the World Breakers had changed the battle completely. These ships were the pride of the Krell fleet, with weapons designed to crack planetary crusts to access valuable minerals. No Alliance ship had ever successfully engaged one. "Admiral Hanna is ordering all ships to fall back to defensive position Beta," the communications officer announced. Ja looked at the main view screen. One of the World Breakers was moving toward the Viridian planet, its main weapon charging for what would likely be a devastating strike on the surface. "How many evacuation ships have launched?" he asked. 17, sir. Estimated 30% of the Viridian population in the targeted zones has been evacuated." Jay made his decision. "Belay that retreat order. Set course for the Lid World Breaker." The bridge fell silent. The executive officer stepped closer. "Sir, our weapons can't penetrate their shields. We can't stop it." "Conventional tactics won't work," Jay agreed, his voice calm. "Time for the Deathworlder special." He activated the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, this is the captain. Prepare for extreme maneuvers. Engineering, divert all power to engines and forward structural integrity fields. Medical, prepare for impact casualties." The Thunderstorm suddenly accelerated toward the nearest dreadnought, its engines glowing white-hot with power. As it moved, sections of damaged hull plate tore away, trailing behind the ship like metallic confetti. Atmosphere vented from multiple breaches, creating a misty trail in the vacuum. On the Krull command ship, Commander Torvik watched in confusion. "What are they doing?" he demanded, yellow eyes fixed on the tactical display. "Their vessel is critically damaged." His second-in-command checked sensor readings. They appear to be on a collision course with the world-breaker inevitable harvest. "Impossible," Torvik hissed. "No species would sacrifice a capital ship in a suicide attack. They'll change course." But the thunderstorm didn't change course. It accelerated, surging forward with increasing speed. Captain J gripped his command chair as the ship groaned around him. "Target their port propulsion array," he ordered. "That's their weak point." The helmsman made tiny adjustments to their course. "Impact in 10 seconds. All hands, brace for collision," Jay ordered, his voice remarkably steady. The impact was like nothing any of them had experienced. The thunderstorm struck the worldbreaker precisely at its propulsion control node. Metal screamed against metal. Shields flared and failed. Both ships spun from the transfer of momentum. But the thunderstorm's reinforced prow, designed to withstand micrometeorite impacts at near-light speeds, punched deep into the Krull vessel before stopping. The human ship was now physically embedded in the larger dreadnought. "Damage report," Jay called out, picking himself up from the floor where the impact had thrown him. "Hull integrity at 23%, reported the engineering officer, blood running from a cut on her forehead. "Main power offline. Life support failing on decks 3 through 18. "And the worldbreaker? "Their propulsion system is completely disabled. They're dead in space." Jay nodded. "Begin evacuation of non-essential personnel. Then prepare boarding parties." His executive officer stared in disbelief. "Boarding parties, sir?" "We're stuck to them," Jay said with a grim smile. "Might as well pay them a visit." Within minutes, human Marines in space combat suits moved through the vacuum between the joined ships. The Krell, never expecting enemies to board a worldbreaker, had minimal internal defenses. The human soldiers, trained to function in environments that would kill most species, moved through the Krull ship with ruthless efficiency. Meanwhile, on the Viridian surface, something remarkable was happening. In a makeshift laboratory set up in the ruins of a Viridian science center, human engineers worked alongside Viridian researchers. Lieutenant Minna directed the operation, her armor modified with experimental components. "Try the frequency again," she told a Viridian scientist, whose name translated as growth in knowledge. The plant-like alien adjusted a crystal in the device they were building. "This should match your shield generator's resonance pattern." Minna activated her armor shield. Instead of the usual blue energy field, a golden glow enveloped her, rippling like liquid light. "Power reading. Increasing," said a human technician. "The shield is absorbing ambient light and converting it to energy." The Viridians had evolved natural photosynthesis to an extraordinary degree, capable of converting light to energy with nearly 90% efficiency. Human engineers had long dreamed of such technology. Now, facing extinction, the Viridians were sharing their biological secrets. "With these modifications, our troops can operate indefinitely in daylight," Minna explained to the gathered engineers. "And the shields will be self-sustaining." File, the Viridian elder who had first met the human Marines, watched the collaboration with color patterns indicating deep thought. He approached Lieutenant Minna as she tested the new shield system. "We do not understand," he said, his translator converting his light patterns to speech. "Why would you sacrifice so much for strangers? Your captain has deliberately crashed his great ship. Your soldiers expose themselves to radiation. Your engineers work without rest." Mina smiled as she calibrated the new light-harvesting shield. "Because that's what humans do. We protect those who cannot protect themselves." "But at such cost," Fell insisted. "The Krell outnumber you. They have larger ships. By your own tactical assessments, you cannot win this battle." Mina glanced up at the sky, where flashes of light marked continuing combat in orbit. Winning isn't always about having the biggest ships or the most soldiers. What is it about then? The Viridian asked. Being willing to pay a higher price than your enemy, Minna said quietly. The Krell fight for resources, for profit. We fight for your right to exist, and humans have always been willing to die for their principles. As she spoke, the first modified shield generators were distributed to Marine squads. Above them, the disabled Worldbreaker drifted helplessly as human boarding parties took control of its weapon systems. The tide of battle was turning, not because the humans were stronger, but because they were willing to fight in ways the Krell could not comprehend. The last Krell warship vanished into hyperspace, leaving only debris and silence. For 3 days, the battle had raged across the Viridian system. Now it was over. The human fleet, or what remained of it, drifted in defensive positions around the blue-green planet. Admiral Hannah stood at the viewport of her command ship, watching as recovery vessels collected survivors from damaged ships. Of the 23 vessels that had arrived, only 14 remained operational. The others were destroyed or, like the Thunderstorm, so badly damaged they would never fly again. Final casualty report, Admiral, said her aide, offering a data tablet. Hannah took it, her face showing no emotion as she read the numbers. 342 dead, 678 wounded. A heavy price. And the Viridians? She asked. Estimates suggest we saved about 70% of the population in the targeted areas. The Krell had already destroyed 3 major population centers before we arrived. Hannah nodded slowly. Begin the recovery operations. I want medical teams on the surface and engineering crews helping rebuild. The Viridian Council has requested a meeting. The Viridian capital city had once been a marvel of crystalline towers that captured and refracted sunlight. Now many of those towers lay shattered, their fragments glittering across the broad plazas. In the central chamber of the only intact government building, the Viridian Council of Elders awaited the human delegation. Admiral Hannah walked alone into the chamber. Her uniform was clean but showed signs of hasty repair. A bandage covered a burn on her neck. She had insisted on coming in person, rather than sending a holographic projection. The Viridians rose as she entered. Their bodies pulsed with colors that the translator interpreted as deep respect and gratitude. The chief elder stepped forward, his ancient form glowing with pale blue light. Admiral Hannah of Earth, he said, his translated voice musical despite the serious tone. The Viridian people cannot fully express our gratitude. You came when others would not. You fought when others would have surrendered. You died so that we might live. Hannah bowed slightly. We did what was right. We have never witnessed such sacrifice, continued the chief elder, moving closer to study the human admiral. Our histories contain no records of beings willingly giving their lives for strangers. You came knowing you might not return. Why? Hannah looked out through a broken wall at the damaged but recovering Viridian world. In the distance, human engineers worked alongside Viridians to restore a water purification facility. Earth has a violent history, she said after a moment. For thousands of years, we fought each other over resources, beliefs, and power. We nearly destroyed ourselves more than once. The Viridian elders' colors shifted to patterns of confusion. But we learned, Hannah continued. We learned that standing by, while others suffer, only ensures more suffering later. Our harsh world taught us resilience, but also empathy. We know what it means to face extinction. We refuse to watch it happen to another species when we could prevent it. The chief elder's fronds waved gently in what the translator identified as thoughtful consideration. The Alliance told us you were dangerous beings from a death world. They warned other species to be cautious in dealings with humans. Hannah smiled slightly. They weren't wrong. Humans can be dangerous. But danger, like any tool, depends on how it's used. 3 days later, in the Alliance Grand Chamber, the Viridian application for membership was formally submitted. The chief elder stood before the gathered representatives, his body glowing with ceremonial colors. The Viridian Collective requests admission to the Galactic Alliance, he announced. We ask that humanity stand as our sponsors. Murmurs filled the chamber. It was unusual for a new species to be sponsored by the Alliance's newest members. Yet none could deny what had happened. When the established Alliance powers had hesitated, humans had acted. The Viridians have met all technical requirements for membership, confirmed the Alliance chair. Their scientific achievements are considerable, and their cultural heritage would enrich our community. Does any representative object to their admission? The chamber remained silent. Even those who had opposed intervention now recognized the political reality. Humanity had proven itself a force to be reckoned with. Then, by the power of this council, the Viridian Collective is welcomed as the 38th member of the Galactic Alliance. Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread quickly. The recordings of human ships continuing to fight despite catastrophic damage, of human soldiers operating in toxic environments, of Captain Jay's desperate ramming maneuver, all became the subject of intense discussion on thousands of worlds. The term Deathworlder remained, but its meaning began to shift. The Deathworlders were dangerous, yes, but they were dangerous in defense of life, not in conquest. In the depths of Krell space, on the throne world of the Dominion, Commander Torvik kneeled before the High Command. His scales were dull with disgrace as he delivered his report. They are unlike anything we've encountered, he admitted, eyes fixed on the floor. They don't retreat when damaged. They use their own injuries as weapons. And most concerning of all, they fight harder to protect others than they do to protect themselves. The Krell's Supreme Commander leaned forward, ancient eyes narrowing. You speak of them as if they are not rational beings. All species act in self-interest. Not these humans, Torvik insisted. They sacrificed ships to save aliens they had never met. Their warriors exposed themselves to radiation to rescue Viridian children. Their medics treated Viridian casualties before their own. The Krell leaders shared uneasy glances. Their empire had expanded for centuries through calculated aggression against weaker species. They understood the mathematics of conquest, the careful balance of resources gained against forces expended. But how could you calculate the actions of beings willing to die for a principle? The humans must be studied, declared the Supreme Commander finally. All Krell forces will avoid their territory and their allies. We must understand them before we face them again. They had awoken something they didn't understand, not just a physically resilient species, but one with a moral resilience that might prove even more formidable. On Earth, the names of the fallen were added to monuments. New ships were built to replace those lost. And throughout human space, young people signed up for service in record numbers, inspired by what had happened at Viridia. The Deathworlders had found their purpose among the stars. The end